Hey everyone, it's Blue Eyes Master 91. I know it's been a few months since I did an update video. Life's just been crazy. Beginning of June, I ended up going to a regionals tournament for the first time since 2004. That was down in Indiana. After that, I was in South Carolina for a little bit for a job opportunity that didn't work out. So I've just been kind of busy with life. Anyway, today I thought I would give you an update on my Blue Eyes branded engine, which has become a Blue Eyes Despia deck. So let's dive on into it. So, first things first, we still run the 3 traditional Blue Eyes White Dragons. That's just a no-brainer for the deck. We have 2 alternatives instead of 3. I trimmed it down for consistency. I found that having the 3 was hurting me more than helping me in a lot of matches during regionals. So, I cut him down to 2. We have our single copy of Jet Dragon, and I don't really think I need to explain why Jet Dragon's so good. He is a continuous recursion, and he provides protection. And then we have the single copy of Abyss Dragon that can be more of a brick if you see it in your opening hand. We have 1 copy of Shadal Beast, because we are running the branded engine. Shadal Beast is just a really, really good one-of. It lets you draw a card if it's if it's flipped summoned. And then if it's sent to the graveyard due to a card effect, you can draw 1 card. So it's a really good way to draw. We have 3 copies of Aluber with the giant drop in price for Aluber. I didn't have any issues acquiring the 3 copies I have. So that was really, really nice. It helps the deck out a lot because Aluber is your gate starter for the branded engine. We have 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz because you need him to run branded fusion and stuff. Move those up. We have 3 copies of Dictator Adi. Again, I don't really feel the need to go into too much detail about him. A short summary would be to special summon him from your hand. You can send a Blue Eyes, specifically Blue Eyes White Dragon, from your hand or deck to the graveyard. He gets special summoned. While you have a Blue Eyes on the field, you get to control, a Blue Eyes monster this time. You get to control who your opponent attacks first. And then you also have a resurrection type effect where you can send a Blue Eyes White Dragon. You can discard a Blue Eyes White Dragon or a card that mentions it to target a Blue Eyes monster in your graveyard to special summon. So, in retrospect, you can discard a Blue Eyes to summon a Blue Eyes. You can discard a Blue Eyes monster or someone that mentions it to revive, say, Ultimate Dragon, because it is considered a Blue Eyes monster. So there's a lot of really cool combos you can do with him. So, yeah. Next, we have our single copy of Light Hexio Fusion. I know I was running Dark Magician in the last update, and I believe I mentioned you can run this instead. I opted to run this because without Verte, it's more of a hindrance to have the Dark Magician in the deck. So that was a change I made more recently on this deck. We have 2 Ash. I found that 3 was too bricky. You'd start with 2 in your hand, sometimes 3 in your hand. This way you have less likelihood of seeing more than 1 copy in your starting hand, which is something you don't want to have. You don't want more than a single copy of Ash in your opening hand. We have 3 copies of our Stone of Ancients. It has great powers and all that. I've covered the effect of Stone a few times now. I have 2 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. Sage, out of all the Eyes with blue monsters, which were all level 1 tuners, Sage is the one that is the most useful in a lot of Blue Eyes builds. Upon its normal summoning, you can add a level 1 light tuner monster to your hand, and then you can also treat it as a type of hand trap where you can discard it, targeting an effect monster on the field, on your side of the field specifically, destroy the targeted monster to special summon out a Blue Eyes monster from your deck. So it's a really, really good way to get Blue Eyes on board early on in a match, or a good way to get more than 1 copy of a Blue Eyes on the field if you open with an alternative. The last monster of the deck is the Whitestone of Legend, a card I haven't used in a Blue Eyes build in a long time. It's not that I didn't like the card. It's just that Stone of Ancients, in my opinion, is a much better version of the card. When this card is sent to grave, you can add a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. That effect is fairly useful with all the Blue Eyes monsters. But because it's specific to the original Blue Eyes White Dragon, I always felt it was not nearly as versatile as the retrained Stone of Ancients. Because Stone of Ancients lets you summon out just a generic Blue Eyes monster, which gives you a lot more flexibility because you can go into Abyss or Jet Dragon on top of your original Blue Eyes. So I always felt White Stone was not as powerful a combo piece, which is why I haven't used it in a deck build in a while. So, getting into the spells now that I'm done with my little rant, we have our single copy of Feather Duster. It's a really good way to get rid of back row on your opponent's side of the field. It doesn't have a real cost. It's not Twin Twisters or any other back row removal that in today's game all have some kind of a cost to use. With Twin Twisters, for example, you discard a card. With Giant Trunade even, it's not back row destruction, it's you return everything to your hand. Both players return back rows to their hand, which in and of itself isn't bad, but Harpy's Feather Duster is just a much better card to run, in my opinion, for back row removal. We have 2 copies of Branded Fusion. I will go into what I have in my side deck for this build, just because you have a lot of versatility for it. Branded Fusion is still one of the best fusion spells in the game. We have a copy of Branded Loss, which just helps the deck out a lot because it's a more fusion-heavy deck. So it allows it so fusion monsters, their effects will always go through no matter what. There's a lot more to it, and I believe I've gone over the effect already once, but the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add Fallen Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it protects your fusion monsters. It assures their summoning and all of that. So it's, in my opinion, a really, really good piece to the puzzle for the deck. We have 2 copies of Melody instead of 3. no real reason behind that. You can easily put 3 in if you want. I felt that 2 was more than enough. If anything, I might side deck a third copy. We have our single copy of Called By, which is just really good to stop opponents. We have 2 copies of Branded Opening, which in combination with Aluber is extremely powerful. I have my third copy in the side deck, which we'll get into here in a little bit. I have a copy of Foolish, which allows you to send your Stone of Legend or Stone of Ancient to the graveyard to get a Blue Eyes. That's just a really, really good card to use. And I'm happy that it's being used more. It's an older card, so it's kind of nice to see. We have a single copy of Ultimate Fusion. When we get into the extra deck here in a minute, I'll explain why just 1 copy. Again, I have a second copy, I believe, in my side deck. And then we have 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is a card I was not originally going to put into the deck, just because of how expensive it is. But I did buy a box of Legendary Duelists of the Deep, or whatever it was, the set from Mako. I ended up pulling a copy, and when I was in South Carolina, I had a little bit of spare money from the trip, so I invested in a single copy. Forbidden Droplet is just a phenomenal card, and cards you can replace it with if you cannot afford it would be Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Chalice, I believe, is another one, or Forbidden Lance, I don't remember which, or other good cards to use, or just using Effect Veiler. So that is it on these spells. Let's dive into the very limited amount of traps we have. We run a single copy of the trap card Branded Banishment. This trap card is from one of the newer sets. Its effect is you can target a Despia monster or a level 8 or higher fusion in your grave, special summon it, then apply the following effect. Then you can apply this effect. Fusion summon one level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from either field. So, this would allow you to revive your Ultimate Dragon, and then if you had material for a fusion summon, you could go into another fusion monster. 9 times out of 10 it's just going to be to... the only situation I've been put in so far is reviving Ultimate Dragon to go for game. So, that's the scenario I've been in, but I'm sure there are plenty of others. We have 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, not a lot to be said there, and then a single copy of True Light, which is, again, I don't think I need to say too much about. So that is it on the main deck. Let's get into our extra deck. And this extra deck starts, as I'm sure you can guess, with a copy of Alternative Ultimate Dragon. It is just a phenomenal monster. Great effect, great protection. Not a lot needs to be said about it. We have our single copy of Tyrant Dragon as well. Again, another monster that is fantastic. It is from a newer set. Actually, from the set that my playmat came from when I went to that sneak peek. So, Tyrant Dragon just takes a Blue Eyes and a Dragon monster. So, it's easy enough to spit out. You can use branded fusion monsters to summon it, or you can use Ultimate Fusion to shuffle stuff back into the deck. Either way, he's a fantastic monster to go into. We then have our copy of Dragoon, which I know I don't need to say anything about him. Our copy of Twin Burst, again, Nothing needs to be said about him. 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon. I don't think I need to really say anything about any of the branded fusion monsters. We have a single copy of Lubellion and Mirror Jade as well. Next, we have a card that might surprise a lot of you, but Winda. When I was going over the deck list I used to make this deck, I went over the extra deck with a fine-tooth comb, and I changed some of the cards out, but a lot of them stayed in. Winda was one of the cards that I kept in because it is a fantastic card, and using Shadow Beast, it's easy to spit out. For those of you who don't know how to use it, or don't know what it does in any case, it just takes a Shadow monster and 1 Dark monster. It must be fusion summoned, cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect. Each player can only special summon monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Shadow spell and trap card and add it from the graveyard to add to hand. You only want it to limit your opponent from special summoning more than 1 monster at a time. It's a really good way to stall out the opponent. Next, we have a copy of Boral Savage for negation purposes. Like with Dragoon, Savage Dragon is just really good for negations. It also gains attack points, and it's just a really, really strong monster. We then have Baron. I'm not using any fancy way to go into Baron. It's just a simple matter of getting a Blue Eyes on the field or what have you and going into it that way. Though I actually think I need to change that because I don't think I can just go into it how I have this deck set up right now. I don't know how easy it would be to go into Baron considering it's a level 10. And all the tuners are level 1 or level 3. So I might have to play around with that. Next we have number 107. Tachyon Dragon. We have a copy of Zeus. Axis Code Talker. And then we have the Black Luster Soldier Link. If I were to change out this extra deck in any way, I would likely I'd probably take out the Zeus package here to put in Needle Fiber and a copy of Formula Synchron, so that way it's easy to go into Baron. So that is it for the extra deck. Let's quickly cover the side deck. And again, this is just some of the cards I've picked. The side deck will likely change and be flexible as the meta changes. But the first card I added into the side deck was Chaos Dragon Levianeer. And that's just because he's really, really easy to summon in the deck. There's no reason not to run it in a Blue Eyes deck. You can use 3 Dark monsters to special summon it, 3 Light monsters to summon it. When you do that, you get to special summon a monster from the grave in defense. If you use Light and Dark, you get to destroy up to 2 cards on the field, which is, from the wording of it, it seems like it's a non-target. Though I'm not 100% sure on that. I would have to ask a judge. But from how it's worded, it seems like it is a non-target. I have my third alternative in the side deck, just in case I feel like I really do need it. A third copy of Sage, again, in case I feel I need it for matches and stuff. I have a single copy of Bingo Machine Go for more searching options. a second copy of Ultimate Fusion for an additional Fusion card, a third copy of Branded Fusion for basically the same reason as Ultimate Fusion and just to give the deck more flexibility. I have 2 crossouts just in case. I know I'm only running the 2 Ash, but it's never a bad thing to run crossout. It's useful, especially with how the meta is changing right now with the 2 new archetypes coming out here in the next couple of weeks. I have a copy of Dragon Shrine for more deck search and special summoning purposes. Regeki to board wipe. The third copy of Opening to go with the third copy of Fusion. I felt initially I had 3 copies of Opening and the 2 copies of Branded Fusion, but I felt that didn't work out very well. So I wanted to test and see how it ran with just 2 and 2. I might go back to the initial build though. I have a copy of Change of Heart. Yesterday I was at a local tournament that just opened up near me, and I actually ended up losing to the last game of the round / the tournament. It was only a 3-round tournament. I ended up losing to Change of Heart, so I thought, okay, it's still as good as it was back in the day. So that's why I slotted that in. You don't have to use it. Just my opinion, my preference. I have a copy of Evenly Matched. With how the meta is changing and evolving, Evenly Matched just seems like a logical choice to kind of combat the flow of the game. Make sure that your opponent stays honest, basically. And then we have Link Karibo and Dragon Spirit for other extra deck options. So that is it on this deck profile. Again, I will try my best to update more frequently now that life has kind of gotten back to normal in some sense of the word. I should be able to do that without much issue. I just haven't been updating decks as frequently as I would like, so there's not been a lot to change on some of the deck profiles I've already used. But that is it for this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, hope you have a great day.